In the vast expanse of the Orion Arm, humanity's first contact with alien life didn't go quite as expected. While science fiction had prepared us for either benevolent allies or terrifying invaders, what we got instead were snobs. The Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced spacefaring civilizations, took one look at our modest fleet of interstellar vessels and burst into what we could only describe as alien laughter. They call those ships. Those are barely more than primitive chemical rockets, the Zentari representative had sneered, their iridescent scales shimmering under the council chamber's lights. The other representatives, each representing civilizations thousands of years ahead of Earth technologically, nodded in agreement. Our ships were indeed smaller, slower, and less advanced than their massive city-sized vessels that could bend space-time itself. Earth's ambassador, Sarah Chin, stood there in the grand chamber, maintaining her composure despite the barely concealed mockery. She'd spent 15 years in diplomatic service, but nothing had prepared her for being literally laughed out of an intergalactic assembly. The council had made their position clear. Humanity was welcome to join their community, but only as a protectorate species. In other words, we'd be little more than pets. That was 6 months ago. Now, as Commander David Reynolds stared at his tactical display aboard the ECS Defiant, he couldn't help but smile. The same Zentari representative who had laughed at human ships was frantically sending distress signals across all frequencies. A massive pirate fleet, comprised of rogue elements from various council species, had launched a surprise attack on their core worlds. The pirates had somehow managed to disable the Zentari's advanced shielding systems, rendering their mighty vessels helpless. The Council's response fleet was 3 days away at their fastest possible speed. The pirates would have stripped half the sector bare by then, but as luck would have it, Earth's tiny fleet was just 8 hours from the conflict zone. The same small size and primitive technology that had earned the Council's derision had also meant the pirates' advanced countermeasures had no effect on human vessels. All ships, battle stations, Reynolds commanded, his voice steady as steel. Let's show them what these primitive ships can do. Across the fleet, crews rushed to their positions. Unlike the largely automated council vessels, human ships relied heavily on their crews' ingenuity and adaptability. Each vessel was a testament to humanity's greatest strength, our ability to achieve the impossible through sheer determination and creativity. The tactical display showed 47 human ships against a pirate fleet of over 200 vessels. The odds seemed impossible, but Reynolds knew better. The pirates had never faced human military tactics before. They had no idea that sometimes the smallest knife could be the deadliest. As the fleet accelerated toward the combat zone, Reynolds received a transmission from Earth Command. The message was simple. Show them why you never underestimate humans. He looked around the bridge, seeing the same fierce determination in every crew member's eyes. They weren't just fighting to save the Zentari. They were fighting to prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars. The pirates' first warning would be the sight of our tiny fleet dropping out of hyperspace right in their midst. By then, it would be too late for them to realize their mistake. Sometimes, the deadliest predator isn't the largest or the most technologically advanced. It's the one you never saw coming until it was right on top of you. As the countdown to emergence began, Reynolds couldn't help but wonder what the Council would say after this. One thing was certain. They'd never laugh at human ships again. The first wave of human ships burst into real space like a swarm of angry hornets. Unlike the massive, lumbering vessels of the Council species, Earth's ships were lean and purpose-built. The ECS Defiant led the charge, its hull barely a quarter the size of the smallest pirate cruiser, but moving with a nimbleness that defied conventional space combat doctrine. "Multiple targeting locks, sir," Lieutenant Cooper called out from her station, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. "Their tracking systems are having trouble getting a solid fix on our ships. Looks like our size really is working in our favor." Reynolds watched as the pirate fleet scrambled to respond to their unexpected arrival. The raiders had arranged themselves in a typical council formation, a wall of heavy capital ships designed to overwhelm any opposition with superior firepower. It was a tactic that worked perfectly against other council vessels, but left them vulnerable to what humanity had planned. "Execute Operation Mongoose," Reynolds ordered, his voice carrying across the bridge with quiet authority. Across the human fleet, crews sprang into action with practiced precision. This was the moment they trained for, the culmination of months of preparation since that humiliating day at the council chambers. The human fleet split into 3 groups, each moving in patterns that would have seemed chaotic to outside observers. But there was method in the apparent madness. Traditional space combat relied on predictable trajectories and calculated firing solutions. Humanity had learned long ago that unpredictability was sometimes the best defense. From the bridge of their flagship, the pirate commander must have been laughing. After all, what threat could these tiny human vessels pose to their superior technology? The pirates' first volley of plasma torpedoes streaked across space, their targeting computers struggling to lock onto the erratically moving human ships. "Now we show them what Earth ingenuity looks like," Reynolds muttered as the human fleet executed their counterattack. While the Council races had focused on developing ever more powerful weapons and impenetrable shields, humanity had taken a different approach. Each human vessel carried a revolutionary system that the Council had dismissed as primitive, electromagnetic pulse generators specifically calibrated to exploit weaknesses in standard Council shield harmonics. The first EMP bursts caught the pirates completely off guard. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic impacts, might as well have been tissue paper against the carefully tuned electromagnetic pulses. Ship after ship began experiencing cascading systems failures as their over-reliant AI cores struggled to cope with the unexpected attack. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Zentari capital," Communications Officer Taylor announced, trying to hide a smile. They're asking if we're actually going to engage the entire pirate fleet with our inadequate vessels." Reynolds allowed himself a small grin. "Tell them to watch and learn, Officer Taylor. It's time for humanity's first lesson in galactic politics." He turned to address the bridge crew, seeing the same mix of determination and barely contained excitement in their eyes. "Remember, everyone, we're not just fighting pirates today. We're showing the galaxy that humanity isn't some primitive species to be patronized or protected." The tactical display showed the pirate fleet attempting to regroup, their formation breaking apart as they tried to adapt to human tactics. But they were fighting with a rulebook that humanity had never bothered to read. While Council warfare relied on overwhelming force and advanced technology, Earth's military had centuries of experience in asymmetric warfare. As the Defiant led another attack run, Reynolds thought about how this battle would change galactic politics. The Council had expected humanity to spend centuries slowly catching up to their level of technology. Instead, they were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous species wasn't the one with the biggest guns, it was the one that knew how to think outside the box. As the battle entered its second hour, the true genius of humanity's strategy began to unfold. The pirates' initial confusion had given way to genuine fear as they realized these supposedly primitive humans weren't just getting lucky, they were systematically taking apart the raider fleet piece by piece. "Third wave of EMP strikes successful," Cooper reported, her voice steady despite the bridge shaking from a near miss. "Pirate vessels in sectors 7 through 9 are showing critical system failures. Their shield harmonics are completely destabilized." The human fleet's formation had tightened into what Reynolds privately called the Wolf Pack configuration. Early in humanity's space combat development, they'd learned from studying Earth's own predators. Like wolves hunting larger prey, the key wasn't to match the enemy's strength, but to wear them down through coordinated attacks and relentless pressure. "Sir, we're picking up some unusual energy readings from the pirate flagship," Officer Taylor announced, his brow furrowed in concentration. They're charging up something big. Nothing in our database matches this signature." Reynolds felt his stomach tighten. This was the moment he'd been worried about, when the pirates would resort to desperate measures. The tactical display showed the massive pirate flagship, easily 20 times the size of the Defiant, beginning to pulse with an ominous purple glow. "All ships, execute evasive pattern Delta," Reynolds commanded. "They're about to show us why they were able to hit these core worlds in the first place." The human fleet scattered just as a massive energy wave erupted from the pirate flagship, rippling through space like a purple tsunami. Several human ships caught the edge of the blast, their crews reporting strange fluctuations in their systems. The ECS Intrepid spun out of formation, its engine sputtering as the unknown energy played havoc with its systems. Whatever this weapon was, it was unlike anything humanity had encountered before. Status report, Reynolds demanded, watching as the pirate fleet began to regroup around their flagship. The raiders had finally stopped underestimating their human opponents, and that made them far more dangerous. Sir, the Zentari are reporting that this matches the weapon signature used to disable their planetary defenses, Cooper replied, her fingers flying over her console. It's some kind of quantum disruption field. Our smaller ships might have some resistance due to our different technology base, but a direct hit. She didn't need to finish the sentence. Reynolds understood the implications. The pirates had been holding back their trump card, waiting for the human fleet to commit fully to the battle. Now they were caught between the hammer of the pirates' superweapon and the anvil of their responsibility to protect the Zentari worlds. Sir, Taylor interrupted, his voice urgent. The Zentari are begging us to retreat. They're saying no fleet has ever survived a direct confrontation with that weapon. The unspoken question hung in the air. Would humanity cut its losses and run, or stand their ground? Reynolds looked at the tactical display, his mind racing through options. The pirate flagship was charging for another blast, its purple glow intensifying. They had maybe 5 minutes before it could fire again. 5 minutes to either retreat and preserve their fleet, or find a way to overcome a weapon that had brought even the mighty Zentari to their knees. All ships, this is Commander Reynolds. He broadcast across the fleet channel. I know you can all see what we're up against, but I also know that humanity didn't come this far by running from a fight. He paused, watching as the purple glow grew brighter. The pirates think they got us cornered. Time to show them another human tradition, turning the tables when our backs are against the wall. The tension on the bridge was thick enough to cut with a knife as Reynolds prepared to give his next order. Whatever happened in the next 5 minutes would either cement humanity's place among the stars or serve as a cautionary tale about human hubris. The fate of not just the battle, but humanity's standing in the galactic community, hung in the balance. Just as Reynolds was about to issue his next command, Officer Taylor's console lit up with urgent alerts. Sir, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations from the Zentari orbital stations. His voice carried a mix of confusion and alarm. They're powering up. But that's impossible. They were completely disabled by the pirates. The tactical display showed something the pirates clearly hadn't expected either. The supposedly dead Zentari defense platforms were humming back to life, their systems rebooting one by one. Reynolds allowed himself a small smile as he watched understanding dawn on his crew's faces. Remember those maintenance shuttles we sent to the stations while we were engaging the pirates? Reynolds asked, his voice carrying a hint of satisfaction. They weren't just for show. We had our best engineers aboard, working to reverse engineer the quantum disruption effect. The Zentari may have superior technology, but human engineers have centuries of experience jerry-rigging solutions in impossible situations. The pirate flagship's purple glow had reached its peak intensity, ready to unleash another devastating blast. But now they faced a dilemma: target the approaching human fleet or deal with the reactivating Zentari defenses that threatened their rear flank. Their hesitation was all the opening humanity needed. Sir, Cooper interrupted, her voice tense with urgency. Our engineers on the stations are reporting something strange. The quantum disruption field, it's not just disabling systems. It's creating some kind of temporal distortion. That's why the Council's advanced AI systems can't handle it. They're literally getting caught in micro-time loops. Reynolds' mind raced with the implications. Council ships relied heavily on AI for everything from targeting to navigation. But human vessels, with their primitive blend of computerized and manual control, might just be immune to these temporal effects. It wasn't their small size that had protected them, it was their supposedly outdated technology. All ships, adjust your EMP frequencies to match the temporal distortion pattern, Reynolds ordered. And get ready for something the pirates won't expect. We're going to turn their own weapon against them." The human fleet began moving in perfect coordination, their formation shifting into what looked like a scattered retreat. The pirate flagship took the bait, unleashing its quantum disruption blast at the apparently fleeing human ships. But instead of scattering further, the human fleet did something unprecedented. Each ship activated its EMP generators at precisely calculated frequencies, creating a complex web of electromagnetic pulses that intersected with the incoming quantum wave. "Energy patterns are matching, sir," Cooper shouted over the rising hum that permeated the bridge. "The temporal distortion is being reflected, but the feedback loop is causing some kind of chain reaction we didn't anticipate." Space itself seemed to ripple as the human fleet's improvised defense collided with the pirates' superweapon. The purple energy wave began to fold back on itself, creating patterns that defied normal physics. Warning alarms blared across every ship as sensors struggled to make sense of what they were detecting. "Sir," Taylor called out, his voice barely audible over the chaos, "we're picking up new signals, massive ones. Something's coming through the temporal distortion." The tactical display flickered as it tried to track multiple massive objects materializing through what looked like tears in space itself. Reynolds stared in disbelief as the sensor readings solidified. Through the temporal rifts created by their desperate gambit, ships were emerging. But not just any ships. They were human vessels, bearing markings and configurations unlike anything in their current fleet. And according to their transponder signals, they were broadcasting construction dates from 50 years in the future. The bridge crew fell silent as they processed this impossible development. Their attempt to counter the pirates' weapon hadn't just reflected the temporal effect, it had ripped holes in time itself. And through those holes, humanity's future fleet had arrived. The pirates were about to learn that they hadn't just picked a fight with humanity's present forces. They'd managed to anger humanity's future as well. "Well," Reynolds said, breaking the stunned silence on the bridge, "I believe this officially qualifies as the biggest plot twist in First Contact history." The tactical display showed the pirate fleet frantically trying to regroup as they faced not one, but two human fleets, one they'd underestimated and one they couldn't have possibly expected. The bridge of the ECS Defiant erupted in chaos as the future fleet's commanding officer established contact. "This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force, year 2174. The transmission crackled through. Reynolds felt his heart skip. The Admiral shared the same surname as their ambassador who'd been mocked at the Council. "We've been waiting 50 years for this temporal rift." "Don't worry, Commander Reynolds. We know exactly what to do." The future ships moved with incredible precision, their designs familiar yet advanced in ways that made Reynolds' engineering mind race with possibilities. They were still recognizably human vessels, not massive like the Council ships, but sleek and purposeful, embodying 50 years of human innovation and adaptation. "Sir, you need to see this," Cooper called out, her voice filled with awe. "The future fleet, they're not just fighting the pirates. They're harvesting the temporal energy from the quantum disruption field. It's like they knew exactly where and when to position themselves." The pirate flagship launched another desperate blast of their superweapon, but this time the future fleet was ready. Their ships moved in perfect formation, using some kind of advanced electromagnetic technology to catch and channel the temporal energy. The space between the fleets began to shimmer with an intricate web of purple and blue energy patterns. "Commander," Admiral Chen's voice came through again, "what you're seeing is Project Timeweave. Your fleet's actions today didn't just create a temporary time rift. You established a stable temporal anchor point. We've spent decades preparing for this moment, learning how to use the pirates' own weapon to protect humanity's past and future simultaneously." Reynolds watched in amazement as the future fleet executed their carefully planned strategy. Each blast from the pirate flagship was caught and redirected, the temporal energy being woven into an increasingly complex pattern around the pirate fleet. The raiders found themselves trapped in their own temporal web, their mighty ships becoming entangled in the very weapon they'd planned to use against humanity. "Now, Commander," Admiral Chen commanded, "hit them with everything you've got. The temporal web will amplify your EMP strikes by a factor of 10. Reynolds didn't hesitate. All ships, concentrate EMP fire on the flagship. Time to show them what happens when you unite humanity's present and future. The combined human fleets launched their attack, their electromagnetic pulses merging with the temporal energy field in a spectacular display of scientific achievement. The pirate flagship's shields collapsed under the unprecedented assault, but instead of exploding, the massive vessel began to phase in and out of reality, caught in the temporal crossfire. One by one, the pirate ships found themselves trapped in temporal stasis, frozen between moments of time. "Sir," Taylor reported, struggling to keep his voice professional, "the Zentauri are hailing us. Their entire council delegation has arrived to witness. Well, to witness humanity making scientific history while saving their core worlds." As the last pirate vessel was secured in temporal stasis, Admiral Chen's image appeared on the main view screen. She looked exactly like her mother, the ambassador, but with streaks of gray in her hair and eyes that had seen half a century more of human advancement. "Congratulations, Commander Reynolds. You just helped humanity complete a 50-year-long mission in the span of a single battle." But before Reynolds could respond, Cooper's console began blaring urgent warnings. "Sir, the temporal web, it's starting to collapse. The future fleet, they're being pulled back to their own time." The space around them churned with temporal energy as the future ships began to fade from view. Admiral Chen's image flickered. "Don't worry, Commander. We knew this was a one-way trip. The temporal anchor point is closing, but our mission is complete. The Council will never again question humanity's place among the stars. Just remember," her voice faded as the temporal rift began to seal itself, "sometimes the smallest fleet can change the course of history, especially when that fleet has humanity's greatest weapon, the ability to unite across time itself." As the future fleet vanished and the temporal energies dissipated, Reynolds stood on his bridge, surrounded by his awestruck crew. Before them floated the imprisoned pirate fleet, frozen in time, while behind them the Zentauri ships approached with their council representatives. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage not just as a new species, but as one that had mastered time itself through their greatest strengths, ingenuity, determination, and the ability to unite in the face of impossible odds. In the days following the battle, the Galactic Council chambers were notably different from the last time humanity had stood before them. Gone were the sneers and barely concealed mockery. Instead, the Council representatives watched in respectful silence as Ambassador Chen presented the after-action report of what was already being called the Battle of Time's Edge. The temporal stasis field holding the pirate fleet had become a subject of intense scientific study. Council scientists, who had previously dismissed human technology as primitive, now worked alongside Earth's engineers to understand how a lesser species had managed to weaponize time itself. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The pirate's quantum disruption weapon has been completely neutralized, Ambassador Chen explained to the assembly. Thanks to the temporal stasis field, we've essentially created the galaxy's most secure prison. The raiders are experiencing only a fraction of a second, stretched across eternity. She paused, allowing a small smile. We believe that's a fitting punishment for those who sought to use time as a weapon. Commander Reynolds, standing at attention behind the ambassador, caught the eye of the Zentauri representative who had once laughed at Earth's fleet. The alien dignitary gave him what could only be described as an apologetic nod. Nearby, several council members were discreetly studying the schematics of human vessels, particularly noting their hybrid control systems that had proved so resistant to temporal attacks. But perhaps the most significant outcome, Ambassador Chen continued, isn't the technology or the victory itself. It's the lesson we've all learned about the danger of assumptions. My daughter, she paused, touching the small hull recording of Admiral Chen that now hung from her neck. My daughter from 50 years in the future showed us that humanity's greatest strength isn't in the size of our ships or the power of our weapons. It's our ability to adapt, to unite, and to turn our perceived weaknesses into advantages. The council chambers erupted in murmurs as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just defended against a pirate attack. They had demonstrated mastery over time itself, even if that mastery was now sealed away with the closing of the temporal rift. The message was clear: underestimate humans at your own risk. In light of these events, the Council President announced, "We are formally withdrawing our previous classification of Earth as a protectorate species. Humanity has earned its place as a full member of the Galactic Council, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." As the chambers filled with the sound of approval, Reynolds thought about the future fleet and Admiral Chen. Somewhere, 50 years from now, a young Sarah Chen was probably just entering the Space Academy, beginning the journey that would lead her to command humanity's future forces. The timeline had come full circle. "Commander," Ambassador Chen said quietly as they left the chambers, "my daughter's existence proves we have a remarkable future ahead of us. But she also proved something else, that humanity's greatest moments come when we stand together, whether across space, time, or simple prejudice." Reynolds nodded, watching the diverse species of the Council mingling with human diplomats and scientists. The galaxy had expected Earth to spend centuries catching up to their level of technology. Instead, humanity had shown them a completely different path, one where innovation didn't just mean bigger or more advanced, but smarter and more creative. As he prepared to return to the Defiant, Reynolds took one last look at the Council chambers. The galaxy had called them the tiny fleet, but they had proved that size wasn't everything. Sometimes the smallest ship could carry the biggest surprises, and the most underestimated species could change the course of galactic history. After all, that's what humans do best: defy expectations and turn the impossible into reality, one small step at a time.